Alright, thank you once again, Ms. Mariama, for her thoughts and insights. From now onwards, I myself, Tracy, will be your presenter for the remaining content of today's webinar. And I'm sure most of us who are coming from travel industry as well as aviation industry, not only in Japan but also overseas. And I'm sure you are all interested in understanding more about the current situation of tourism industry in the world in general, as well as in Japan. Right now we have about 130 participants joining us today on this webinar, and we are very happy to see you all. Alright, let's go to the next slide. As you may be aware, Japan has reported its first case of COVID-19 in January, and the mass infection of diamond princess cruise in February has actually brought Japan to international attention. And on March 24th, and as a whole lot of you aware of this, in responding to the global pandemic situation, IOC has announced to postpone Tokyo Olympic 2020 for another year. And in April 2020, where Japan started to see a huge spike in daily new cases, Japan government has declared the state of emergency first to 7 prefectures and then further extended it to nationwide. The state of emergency has been eased since in May after the number has dropped. But now, as we can see from this graph, Japan is starting to experience the so-called second wave of infections at the beginning of July. But nonetheless, with different measures and efforts from various industries in place, we have now seen a steady decline in new cases now. And as of 15th September, which was yesterday, the total COVID-19 cases in Japan is at 76,448 cases, and the total death has been recorded at 1,461. As a consequence of this worldwide pandemic, we have seen huge impacts happening in various industries as well as economies. Tourism industry is definitely one of the most tremendously affected industry amid this COVID-19 situation, and Japan tourism is no exception. From this graph, we can see that while in previous years, international visitors coming to Japan has been maintained at a range of 2 million to 3 million visitors per month. However, since January this year, we have observed a now 8 months in a row sharp decline in international influx, and in the month of July, the total arrivals to Japan is reported only at 3,880, which is a 99.9% decline as compared to the same month of previous year. The negative growth rate is about the same across different countries or areas, as we can see from this table. And in the month of July, there were only less than 10 visitors coming to Japan from Malaysia, which is actually equivalent to 100% off. As of this, Japan is still posing general entry bans, and about 111 countries or regions are actually subjected to this ban. As of now, visa applications as well as visa exceptions that are granted to certain countries, for instance Malaysia previously, are temporarily suspended. Until the end of last month, only Japan citizens and residents with re-entry permits are allowed to enter Japan. However, on 8 September of this year, the government of Japan has actually resumed partial travel for citizens from 5 countries, which includes Malaysia. This so-called residence track allows citizens from these 5 countries to enter Japan only under the purpose of business travel or others, but not for leisure or tourism yet. And those travelers are still required to take a swab test for COVID-19 upon arrival at the airport, and also to complete a 14-day quarantine at home or at designated place. Other than the mentioned residence tracks, there are already allowed citizens from Vietnam and Thailand to enter Japan since end of July, and the newly added 5 countries, which include Malaysia, Taiwan, Cambodia, Myanmar, and Laos on 8 September, Japan has also started negotiating and arranging the restart of bilateral travels, or the so-called travel bubble, with other countries that are listed here. The next country that we expect to start the bilateral travel with Japan will probably be Singapore, where the Japan government is actually aiming to start the business track arrangement with Singapore government by end of this month. While Japan has been slowly resuming bilateral travel with undesignated countries, travel experience will never be quite same in future travel. So in this section, we will discuss on how the world travel industry has changed in reacting to this pandemic and how has public preference towards future travel shifted before and after pandemic. And according to the forecast by UNWTO on the international tourism demand, 3 scenarios were projected here based on the timing of gradual opening of borders and lifting of travel restrictions. Well, we can see from this graph that the earlier the upliftment is, the smaller the impacts are. For instance, we can see here, if the borders are open early in July, the impact was only about 58%, but the longer it drags, the more impact we can see. And nonetheless, a total loss of 850 million to 1.9 billion international tourists are expected, resulting in employment crisis to 100 million to 120 million tourism-related employees. And the estimated income loss from tourism is at $910 billion and 1 to 1.2 trillion US dollars. And this is huge. Recovery of international tourism demand is expected to happen only mainly in the first quarter of this year or maybe next year. And according to IATA, the recovery of flight demand to go back to the previous 2019 level will only happen by 2022 for domestic routes, and for international flights to actually go back to the previous 2019 level, more times are actually needed and will mostly happen only in 2023 or 2024. In light of all these new long-term impacts brought by the pandemic, it is pretty safe to assume that tourism itself will slowly transform or even to evolve into a new era. So the question here is, how will the travel industry or traveler preference change in responding to this with Corona or after Corona lifestyle, or simply the new normal? So now let's look at some figures. Based on the COVID-19 survey done by TripAdvisor in June 2020 on 6 different countries, namely USA, United Kingdom, Singapore, Australia, Italy, and Japan, we understand from the graph that in post-COVID-19 travel, some of the key factors when deciding one travel destination will be places that are not crowded, or destination with low COVID-19 cases, or cities where government is actually putting effort in managing public hygiene and sanitization in the area. When we look at the services which is more likely to be used by travelers in their next trip, travel insurance that provides flexibilities of trip cancellations or trip change will be the top first service that travelers would like to have, where about 40 to 60% across market of the respondents prefer to have this option. And of course, travel experience preference will also observe a change before and after COVID-19 pandemic. According to this graph, you can see that group tour that consists of large group size and with strangers is no longer appealing to travelers in post-COVID-19 travel, as we can imagine. Private tour that are small in group size and only with the people that you know is now a new trend in post-COVID-19 travel experience or travel style. And when we look at the travel experience preference, particularly in Malaysia market, focusing on Japan travel, Malaysia travelers actually still prefer to have their flight accommodation to be arranged separately or by themselves, and group tour, surprisingly, is still a popular option for Malaysia travelers in general. Whereas for travelers with zero Japan travel experience, they prefer group tour rather than self-arrangement, where 30% of them prefer group tour arrangement, and 30% of them answer that they will prefer to have their flight or accommodation separately. When we look at accommodation and lodging preference, travel now, when we look at travelers in APEC region, they are now more drawn to experiencing lodge or nature-connected accommodation like Leopard or campsite. Cheap hotels that offer no unique experience are actually losing their popularity. And as a precaution to potential COVID-19 infection, people are now more aware of social distancing and hence resulting in a popularity of nature experiences or outdoor activities like hiking, picnic, cycling, and these are among top activities for epic travelers. So up to now, we have briefly explored the current conditions in the world and also in Japan, as well as learning how COVID-19 has actually largely impact the tourism industry and also altered the preference of travelers. After COVID-19 has been discovered in major cities and countries, tourism in many countries, of course including Japan, has been affected severely. Flights have been suspended, trips are forgone, and people are advised to actually stay home. Nonetheless, with the efforts by each country and with all the new normal measures implemented in each country, we can now see signs of recoveries in tourism in some countries, especially domestic tourism. For instance, you can see that during the month of March and June 2020, every market in Asia Pacific is showing a strong weekly growth in domestic hotel bookings. And this result is from TripAdvisor. The Y-to-Y difference in the year of hotel bookings has shown an upward trend across all markets, and New Zealand's domestic booking rate has even exceeded 2019 levels in June. And we can actually see in this graph that Malaysia, which is the pink line, and Japan, the purple line, is also showing an upward trend. Alright. As based on the statistics by TripAdvisor, the hotel booking rate in Malaysia was increased by 34.2% in the week of June 13 as compared to its previous rate. Similar two-digit increases are also observed in countries like Hong Kong, Japan, South Korea, Thailand, and Vietnam. This shows that while tourists are still unable to travel overseas, they remain a positive attitude to the traveler and are starting now to actively travel domestically. And how about future trends for international travelers? I'm sure all of us are curious about this. While international border controls are strengthened in many countries, and international movements are not as freely as previous as of now, previous surveys have been conducted, and results actually show us that Japan still remains as a top popular travel industry, even in post-COVID travel. For instance, when you look at this result by a 2020 special collaborative survey done by the Development Bank of Japan and Japan Travel Bureau Foundation on Japan travel in June 2020, Japan actually came out as the top destination to visit by Asian respondents after COVID-19 pandemic. And we have a group size of Asia respondents of 3,000 over. And 56 of them actually selected Japan as their top choice to travel in post-COVID-19 era, following by Korea 30% and Taiwan 23%. So why is Japan so popular? Some of the reasons why Japan is selected by respondents in general as their top favorite destination to visit in post-COVID-19 are the places that they want to visit. And Japan offers a lot of delicious cuisine. They have previous good experience in Japan. And last but not least, the cleanliness of Japan and also the shopping paradise in Japan has drawn people to go back to Japan or to visit Japan for the first time. When we look at the answers by Western respondents, Japan is actually ranked as second top destination choice in the Western world, outperforming Canada, UK, Australia, and other European countries, which are actually more closer to Western world, but yet Japan is ranked number 2, right after America. This is a breakdown of top favorite countries to visit in post-COVID-19 era by country, and based on this ranking, we can see that Japan appears to be top ranked destination in countries like Malaysia, Singapore, China, Australia, Thailand, and USA, as well as regions like Taiwan, Hong Kong, or Indonesia. For Malaysian market in particular, travelers with zero Japan travel experience chose Japan as their travel destination because they think there are places that they want to visit in Japan, and those places are only be able to find in Japan. Whereas for travelers that have been to Japan, for instance, who has visited Japan at least once in the past, think delicious cuisines are safe and safety are the main reasons for them to revisit the country to stay. And this is on their expectation in terms of COVID-19 travel to Japan, we can see that expectations in each category are slightly different, but we can find the common COVID-19 measurements in most of the key expectations by Malaysian travelers, regardless of categories, when they visit Japan again after COVID-19. So, we have seen in the previous slide that Japan remains as one of the top destinations to travel in post-COVID. And I'm sure many of us here might wonder, so, how is Japan doing in recovering tourism? Therefore, in our next section, we'll be discussing on the Japan route and assets to tourism recovery and revitalization. Back in June 2020 this year, JNTO has officially announced the framework of tourism recovery roadmap for inbound travel to Japan. This roadmap is actually divided into 3 steps or 3 phases, as you can see here. But step 1 is during the lockdown stage. Step 2 is when domestic travel to Japan is deemed possible again, and the entry restrictions to Japan is gradually eased. And the last stage, step 3, will be when those restrictions are lifted, and Japan is once again ready to welcome inbound tourism. This roadmap serves as a framework or a guideline for JNTO, as well as other suppliers in Japan, to refer to and they plan and slowly expand our marketing strategies and future promotional steps. During step 1, when lockdown was in place and people are recommended to stay home, JNTO continues to understand the changing trends in each market and analyze as well as responding to the changes. At the same time, regardless of whichever phase, JNTO continues to provide information to Japan lovers through social media such as our Facebook page, website, as well as newsletters to partners, or through webinars and support to our partners via information sharing. So this was about the time when the outbreak of COVID-19 was happening in Malaysia, and Malaysia having MCO and Japan having state of emergency. Then comes to the phase 2, and we are right now in this stage, where domestic travel in Japan is possible again, and we are starting to see the easing of entry restrictions to Japan by certain countries. In this step, we, JNTO, will expand our promotional efforts by gradually releasing reassuring messages such as safety and security information, or by supporting the development of new tourism products based on the changing trends affected by COVID-19 by conducting surveys or analyzing new trends, as well as boosting the positive image of Japan through social media or websites. Lastly, in step 3 to come, when international travelers are finally allowed, then JNTO will actively carry out aggressive promotions through collaborations with you, our partners, and to conduct trips to build confidence in Japan travel again. The time to restart this inbound tourism to Japan in each market will vary based on the listing of travel restrictions in each market, as well as the bilateral travel arrangements between Japan and the target market. And presumably, the restart order of international travel to Japan will first happening in East or Southeast Asia, and slowly expand to Europe, North America, and Oceania. However, the order will be highly dependent on the latest situation of the target market, as well as the agreement between both countries. The key point to restart international travel to Japan in a target market will be based on some hard conditions, such as COVID-19 being under control in Japan as well as target countries, or the travel restrictions Japan has been eased. There will be on soft conditions whereby the country is ready to accept inbound travelers, and also domestic public opinion pool trends are in favor to actually open inbound travel. Last but not least, mental preparedness is also very important because consumers have to be confident in traveling again in order for them to actually go back to international travel. While we are still waiting for physical conditions to be ready to reopen our borders and to welcome back overseas travelers once again, Japan is now reopening and promoting domestic travels as a first step to revive travel industry and hence create a groundswell of acceptance for inbound travelers. So now we see some of the efforts in promoting domestic travel in Japan will be the Go-To campaign, as you might have heard of, that promotes domestic travel in Japan, as well as 350% off for residents in Japan, area discounts at certain areas, and SMS contacts in different regions in order to promote awareness and to attract people to the country. And last but not least, the most important one will be safety measures happening in each region of Japan. As we have seen in previous slides, COVID-19 measurements will remain as one of the key expectations by international travelers when they visit Japan after COVID-19. So now we'll be looking into more details some of the COVID-19 measures being implemented now in Japan. The first one will be Kuala application. As some of you may have heard of, Kuala is a COVID-19 contact tracking app launched by the Ministry of Health, Labor and Welfare of Japan, and Kuala is for COVID-19 contact application. Kuala is somewhat similar to MySejahtera app that we are using now in Malaysia in terms of tracking close contact of COVID-19, but instead of having the user to check in manually, Kuala actually serves as a background functioning app, and it will record close contact between smartphones which has this app installed and running in a system. What does that mean? For instance, we have two versions, person A, person B, and both of them having this Kuala app installed in their phone. And when they're in contact for more than 15 minutes, they are considered having in close contact, and this Kuala app will automatically record this code of this person in the system. And maybe after a while, after 14 days, person B is confirmed positive for COVID-19. The system will automatically trace back all the records and all the close contacts, and they will actually automatically contact person A for the potential infection. Other than that Kuala app, different SOPs have also been created by official travel-related associations in Japan, such as Japan Association of Travel Agents, the Scheduled Airline Association, Japan Hotel Association, and other related associations in meeting the safety measurements in traveling Japan. Some of the guidelines would be maybe similar to Malaysia, recommended to meter social distancing, or minimum 1 meter, transparent shield, avoidance of 3C, which is crowded, confined, and closed space, body temperature screening, mask usage, disinfection, ventilation, and QR menu and individual service in restaurants. Also, Japan Visitors Hotline managed by JNTO is also now accepting queries regarding to COVID-19. JNTO official Twitter account as well as the COVID-19 advisory information page on our website also provide latest COVID-19 updates periodically on this platform. Other than this guideline introduced by travel-related associations, local offices in Japan are also implementing various measures in tackling COVID-19 infections at the state or municipal level in Japan. So from now on, we'll be showing you a video on the safety travel efforts and measurements done by one of the popular travel destinations in Japan, which is Okinawa. Different local municipalities and associations or particular brand companies in Japan have come up with their own safe travel videos, but because of time constraint today, we'll be only showing you the video by Okinawa Convention and Visitors Bureau. some local municipalities also come out with their own safety certificate or clean certificate to boost confidence of user in visiting the facilities in the city. One example would be Sado City in Niigata, where they come up with this 3-star clean certificate. Facilities will be granted a certificate ranging from 1 star to 3 stars depending on their safety or hygiene measures being carried out in their premises, and travelers now can refer to the list of shops in each star category in fitting their own comfort and safety demands. Now, we will introduce some of the efforts done by JNTO. And before we go into detail, we must first acknowledge that some of the changes that will be observed in tourism going forward. For instance, there will be a higher demand by travelers on the demand in safety and security, and travelers now might need a stronger motivation to travel, and there might be a shift from the conventional in-shop package inquiries or purchases to online. Something we might have to take note is that, with a motive to avoid crowds, resulting in the switch in urban to nature travel? Or will there be more health-themed travel? Or will travelers favor more independent travels or FIT over large tour groups now? Lastly, while there are some changes we might observe in the post-COVID-19 traveler, some remain unchanged. For instance, Japan attractiveness or travel demand. People will still go travel, and Japan will still provide our Japan attractiveness to the travelers. Travelers come to Japan for its delicious cuisine, hygiene, shopping, and last but not least, Japan beauty. And to answer to those expectations of Japan travelers and to further appeal the strengths and advantages that Japan possesses, JNTO has come up with different approaches, such as mock Japan trips to continue inspire travelers while staying at home through the release of JNTO produced 360-degree VR video or 4K, 8K videos in aerial shots, etc. And also, we have this Japan 47 prefecture videos that is available on YouTube. In addition, Japan HQ has also come up with this traveling without leaving home promotional videos, and all these above videos that they mentioned just now is available at this COVID-19 related website named Beyond the Clouds There's Always Light. JNTO also encourages SNS users to use the hashtag #StayHomeWithJapan so that the pictures will be reposted on this website. In our KL office, as some of us might have seen this before, we are constantly updating our partners with latest Japan information and safety or security related information via newsletters as well. And JNTO offices all around the world also launches in-consumer engaging campaigns or contests to keep our fans showered with Japan-related information. And of course, we have our webinars to keep our partners well informed and refreshed with Japan tourism-related updates and news as well. And in our next webinars, we'll be sharing more in details different promotions and new sports in each region. Also, we will be accepting requests from you after this webinar as well on area or topic that you wish to be covered by us in our upcoming webinars. And now, while we are slowly coming to the end of today's webinar, we would like to briefly share with you the report from the questionnaire on resumption of Japan travel that was conducted in June 2020. As some of you might recall, JNTO KL office have sent some of you a questionnaire to ask about your opinion about the resumption of Japan travel, and we thank these 110 respondents who have assisted us in this questionnaire. So, if you may recall, the first question was, do you wish to resume your sales on Japan travel package after the COVID-19 pandemic? And we are happy to know that more than 99.1% of our respondents actually said yes on this. And in answering yes, when are you planning to resume your sales? This result is based on the response received back in June, and as we all know that our MCO has been further extended to the end of this year, so this result might not be the most accurate or up-to-date result, but these are the response we received at that time, and we can see that close to 1/3 of the respondents actually wanted to resume their Japan sales in November to December 2020, and almost a quarter of them actually said they want to resume as early as September to October this year. The next question is, which travel product are you planning to sell when you resume your sales? And as we all know, the typical popular one would be Golden Route plus Shiragawa Go, as well as Hokkaido products. But other than these two highly popular products, we still have Kyushu products, FIT products, Okinawa products, Tohoku products, and incentive products coming up in this ranking. And lastly, we have asked for some feedbacks from our partners, and these are the requests that they have for Japan governments. For instance, periodical updates on COVID-19 measures, new safety guide, preferential policies, more positive news on Japan, as well as Japan government supports. Whereas on the right-hand side, these are the feedbacks more towards JNTO, particularly JNTO KL office. For instance, we have new spots, promotions information, video promotions on halal or Muslim-related videos, webinar to refresh knowledge, online information sharing, as well as joint promotional package with local sellers. These feedbacks are exceptionally useful in planning our future strategies, and once again, we thank all of you who have participated in this questionnaire. And in our upcoming webinar series, we will be covering the topics on new spots, as well as promotion information in Japan in general, as well as area-specific sessions, alongside with any latest or periodical update on COVID-19 measures in Japan. As a little bit of preview, in our next webinar, we'll be introducing the topic on Japan travel after COVID-19, focusing on different promotions that are going on in Japan in line with COVID-19 recovery, as well as some new and unique experiences and spots that can be incorporated in your Japan travel packages, and the tentative date for our next section will be in 2 weeks' time. And to end our first webinar, we would like to share this promotional video of Japan to all of you, and let's hope that beyond the clouds, there is always light.